and electrolytes balance. First of all, we will discuss fluids. Water is the most abundant constituent in the body, comprising approximately 50% of body weight in women and 60% in men. Variation of plus minus 15% in both groups is normal. Remember that obese patients have 20 to 30% less body water than thin people. Infants have 75 to 80% of water of total body weight. But gradually physiological loss of body water, it remains 65% at the age of 1 year. 55 to 75% as intracellular and 25 to 45% as extracellular. The extracellular fluid is further subdivided into intravascular, that is plasma water, and extravascular space in a ratio of 1:3. This picture shows that 55% of fluids in females of total body weight and 60% fluids in male of total body weight. Out of these, two-thirds is intracellular fluid and one-third is extracellular fluid. Out of one-third of extracellular fluid, 80% and interstitial fluid and 20% and plasma. In the start, I have mentioned that 80% of weight of newborn have water, and the male is at 60% of total body weight, and it is the this picture 50% of total body weight. Now, the solutes or particle concentration of a fluid is known as its osmolarity, expressed as milliosmoles per kilogram of water. The major extracellular fluid particles are sodium and its accompanying anion chlorine and bicarbonate, where potassium and organic phosphate esters and creatinine phosphate are the predominant intracellular fluid osmoles. Vasopressin secretion, water ingestion, and renal water transport collaborate to maintain human body fluid osmolarity between 280 and 295 millismol per kg. The sources of body fluids, preformed water represents about 2300 ml per day of daily intake. Metabolic water is produced through the catabolic breakdown of nutrients occurring during cellular respiration. This amount to about 200 ml per day. Combining a preform and metabolic water gives us total daily intake of 2500 ml per day. The main function of fluids are all chemical reaction occur in liquid medium. It is crucial in regulating chemical and by electrical distribution within cells. Transport substances such as hormones and nutrients occur in liquid medium. Oxygen transport and carbon transport and the opposite direction occur in liquid. Dilutes toxic substances and waste products and transport them to the kidney and the liver. Distributes heat around the body. Fluid distributes heat around the body. Now we will discuss the sodium disorder. First we will discuss the sodium disorder. Disorder of sodium concentration are caused by abnormality in water homeostasis leading to changes in the relative ratio of sodium to body water. Water intake and circulating AVP constitute the two keys of the sodium disorder. Sodium regulations, most prevalent caution and extracellular fluid as sodium. Normal level of around 135 to 145 millimole per liter. The intracellular concentration of sodium around 10 millimole per liter, at responsible for 90% of total osmolality of the extracellular fluid. Major function of sodium is to maintain extracellular fluid volume and thus BP, blood pressures. In normal individual, the kidney strives to achieve sodium balance, that is to have sodium excretion equal to sodium injections. The long-term control of blood pressure is achieved by the excretion or retention of sodium and hence plasma volume in the kidney. Now we will discuss the hyponatremia. Hyponatremia is defined as a plasma sodium concentration that is less than 135 milliequivalent per liter. It is further divided in three groups. Mild hyponatremia is defined as plasma sodium concentration between 130 to 134 milliequivalent per liter. Moderate hyponatremia is defined as plasma sodium concentration between 121 to 129 milliequivalent per liter. Severe hyponatremia is defined as plasma sodium concentration less than 120 milliequivalent per liter. So, the main definition of hyponatremia is when the sodium level is less than 135 milliequivalent per liter, and the normal sodium concentration in plasma is 135 milliequivalent to 145 milliequivalent per liter. Hyponatremia is a very common disorder occurring up to 22% hospitalized patient. Depending on clinical history and volume status divided into further hypovolemic hyponatremia, euvolemic hyponatremia, and hypervolemic hyponatremia. I repeat once again, depending on clinical history and volume status, hyponatremia are divided into hypovolemic hyponatremia, euvolemic hyponatremia, and hypervolemic hyponatremia. Now we will discuss each type individually. In hypovolemic hyponatremia, there is both deficiency of sodium and total body waters, and the patient mostly dehydrated. The causes of hypovolemic hyponatremia we divide into two groups. One is non-renal losses. Second is renal losses. When urinary sodium excretion is less than 20 milliequivalent per liter, these causes are vomiting, diarrhea, third space losses like peritonitis, pleural effusion, pancreatitis, and Bonds. When the urinary sodium excretion more than 20 milliequivalent per liter, most rate is due to renal losses. The causes of renal losses of hypovolemic hyponatremia are reflux nephropathy, recovery phase of acute tuber necrosis, use of some diuretics, mineralocorticoid deficiency, and osmotic diuresis and ketonuria. I repeat once again, in hypovolemic hyponatremia, and this type of hyponatremia, deficiency of both sodium plus total body water. The causes are divided in two groups, non-renal losses and renal losses. Non-renal losses are vomiting, diarrhea, peritonitis, and Bonds. Renal losses, causes of renal losses of sodium are diuretics, use of some diuretics, acute stage of recovery phase of acute tuber necrosis, reflux neuropathy, mineralocorticoid deficiency, osmotic diuresis, and ketonuria. The second type of hyponatremia is hypervolumic hyponatremia. Patients with hypervolumic hyponatremia develop an increase in total body sodium chloride that is accompanied by proportionately greater increase in total body water, leading to reduced plasma sodium concentrations. The causes of hypervolumic hyponatremia are congestive heart failure, cirrhosis, nephrotic syndrome, acute or chronic renal failure. The causes of hypovolumic hyponatremia are congestive heart failure, cirrhosis, nephrotic syndrome, and acute or chronic renal failure. Characterized by development of fetting edema, these patients mostly have fetting edema. About 5 liters of excess water need to be retained to produce definite fetting edema and average size adult and normal adult. The third type of hyponatremia is euvolumic hyponatremia. Patient has a normal store of sodium but an excess of total body water. Yani these patients have normal sodium level but an excess of total body water. The most common form seen in hospitalized patient. The most common cause is inappropriate administration of hypotonic fluid. The syndrome of inappropriate antidiuresis is the most common condition causing euvolumic hyponatremia. Other causes of euvolumic hyponatremia are glucocorticoid therapy, stress, and hypothyroidism. This slide discusses what is the syndrome of inappropriate antidiuresis. It is the most common cause of euvolumic hyponatremia, and in this syndrome, the secretion of ADH is not inhibited by either low serum osmolarity or expanded intravascular volume. Child with syndrome of inappropriate ADH is unable to excrete water. This results in dilution of the serum sodium and hyponatremia. Kidney increase sodium excretion in an effort to decrease intravascular volume to normal. Thus, the patient has a mild decrease in body sodium. The main cause of this syndrome is the secretion of ADH is not inhibited by either low serum osmolarity or expanded intravascular volume. Basically, the diagnostic criteria of syndrome of inappropriate ADH is the diagnosis of exclusion. It is the diagnosis of exclusion, and that is the absence of following disease like adrenal, and thyroid insufficiency, heart failure, nephrotic syndrome. First, you will exclude these diseases: cirrhosis, diuretic ingestion, and dehydration. One criteria is the absence of the following disease. Second is when the urine osmolarity more than 100 milliosmol per kg and the serum osmolarity is less than 280 milliosmol per kg and serum sodium is less than 135 milliequivalent per liter and the urinary excretion of sodium is more than 130 milliequivalent, then you will able the syndrome of inappropriate ADH. Four criteria I have mentioned: the absence of the following disease, which I already mentioned, plus urine osmolarity more than 100 millismol per kg, and serum osmolarity less than 280, and urinary sodium excretion more than 30 milliequivalent per liter. The main point to diagnose the syndrome of inappropriate ADH When the reversal of sodium wasting and correction of hyponatremia with water restriction, when you restricted the fluid to the patient and there is uh, correction of hyponatremia, this is the main feature of syndrome of inappropriate ADH. Clinical feature of hyponatremia depend on severity of symptom, depend upon the severity of hyponatremia and the rate at which the sodium concentration is lower. It is divided in acute and chronic. Acute hyponatremia develop in first 24 hours, 28 hours or less. Clinical feature most related with cerebral edema. The chronic type develops clinical feature over more than 48 hours and brain edema is less and is well tolerated. The sign and symptoms are due to increase in volume of intracellular fluid and increase in volume of brain cells rather than decrease in serum sodium. Now, this is the most common feature of hyponatremia. Mostly it represents with neurological features like fatigue, headache, nausea, vomiting. These features develops when the sodium level between 125 to 130 milliequivalent per liter in acute phase, or when these symptoms are developed when the sodium level between 120 to 125 milliequivalent per liter when the symptom are chronic in more than 48 hours. Confusion, seizures, and coma. These three symptoms develop at sodium level 120 to 125 milliequivalent per liter in acute stage and 110 to 120 milliequivalent in chronic stage. The main features are fatigue, headache, nausea, vomiting, confusion, seizures, coma. The symptoms depend on the severity of derangement and speed at which the derangement develops. Diagnostic evaluation of hyponatremia depend on clinical assessment, underlying causes, detailed drug history, volume status, and consider all the possible causes of hyponatremia. Some laboratory investigation you needed to diagnose the hyponatremia like serum osmolarity, serum sodium and potassium level, blood urea and creatinine level, serum glucose and uric acid level, urinary sodium and potassium level, urinary osmolarity level, serum protein and lipid profile, other tests like thyroid, adrenal, pituitary function, and sometimes you need radiological testing like X-ray, CT, thoracic, and brain to exclude the other causes of hyponatremia. The treatment of hyponatremia, four issues must be addressed. Asymptomatic, first you will, it is asymptomatic or symptomatic, the symptom of acute or chronic, and status of volume status of the patient. And first step is to calculate the total body water. Total body water calculator is equal to zero point 0.6 into body weight. Next step decide what our desired correction rate should be. I have already mentioned that first you will calculate total body water by this formula 0.6 into body weight. Second, it is symptomatic or acute hyponatremia or chronic hyponatremia. And symptomatic immediate increase in serum sodium level by 8 to 10 milliequivalent per liter and 4 to 6 hours with hypertonic saline is recommended. Acute hyponatremia, more rapid correction may be possible that is 8 to 10 milliequivalent per liter and 4 to 8 hours. Chronic hyponatremia correction, mostly slower rates of correction, that is 12 milliequivalent per liter and 24 hours. Now we will discuss the treatment. Individual considering etiology, rate of development, severity, and clinical sign and symptom. Hyponatremia, which develop quickly, need to be treated fast. We are slow developing. Hyponatremia should be corrected slowly. Goal of therapy to raise the plasma sodium concentration at low rate, to replace sodium or potassium deficit or both, to correct underlying etiology. Once again, goal of therapy to raise the plasma sodium concentration in a slow rate, to replace sodium or potassium deficit or both, to correct underlying etiology. Basic principles of correction. Rapid correction is indicated in acute, that is less than 48 hours, symptomatic or severe hyponatremia when serum level less than 120 milliequivalent per liter. But in chronic cases, patients are at later risk. However, rapid correction can lead to demyelination. Use slower acting therapies like water restrictions. Hypovolemic hematuria will respond to intravenous hydration with isotonic normal saline with a rapid reduction in circulating AVP and a brisk water diuresis. Diuretic induced hyponatremia is treated with saline and potassium supplementation. Briefly, hypovolemic hyponatremia should be treated with isotonic normal saline, and diuretic induced hyponatremia is treated with saline and potassium supplementations. Second type of hypervolemic hyponatremia responds to salts and water restriction and loop diuretics. Evolemic hyponatremia will respond to successful treatment of the underlying cause with an increase of plasma sodium concentration. Regardless of the initial rate of correction, choose an acute treatment as stopped once. Patient symptoms are abolished. A safe plasma sodium when more than 125 milliequivalent per liter is achieved. Specific therapy of hyponatremia, removal of responsible drugs like diuretics, the chlorpromide, etc. Management of physical stress or post-operative pain. Specific treatment of underlying cause. Vasopressin antagonist, highly effective and threatened. Syndrome of inappropriate ADH and hypervolemic hyponatremia. Reliably increasing plasma sodium concentration is the result of their accurate efforts. Most of these agents specially antagonize the V2 vasopressin receptors. To calculate need of replacement sodium containing fluids, we have different solution like normal saline, 0.9% saline, which contain 154 milliequivalent per liter sodium chloride. Second type of solution is 3% sodium chloride, that is hypertonic saline, having 513 milliequivalent per liter sodium level, are the only two routinely used IV fluids. However, normal saline, 0.9% normal saline is not used to correct hyponatremia and syndrome of inappropriate ADH. The treatment of symptomatic hyponatremia quickly raise the sodium level but only as much as necessary to ensure that the patient has normal respiration, seizures free and is alert. Initial therapy, symptomatic hyponatremia, initial therapy with 3% sodium chloride with dose of 4 to 6 milliequivalent per kg over 30 to 60 minutes. I repeat once again, Symptomatic hyponatremia should be treated with 3% sodium chloride with 4 to 6 ml per kg over 30 to 60 minutes. If no clinical improvement, another 3 to 4 ml per kg of 3% sodium chloride should be given. Therapy stop once child is asymptomatic or serum sodium is 125 milliequivalent per liter. Once patient is asymptomatic, remnant deficit corrected by normal saline, total body sodium deficit approximated as sodium deficit is equal to 130 minus serum sodium and 2.6 into body weight. By this formula, you will calculate the sodium level. Rate of rise of serum should not exceed 0.5 to 1 milliequivalent per liter per hour. Rate of rise of sodium can be predicted as follows. Rise of serum sodium per liter or of fluid infused, यानी infused sodium minus plasma sodium and 2.6 into body weight plus 1. Briefly, the rate of sodium rise should not exceed 0.5 to 1 milliequivalent per liter, and symptomatic hyponatremia should be treated with 3% sodium chloride with 4 to 6 ml per kg of normal saline. Second type, asymptomatic or chronic hyponatremia. Rate of correction should be comparatively slow as compared to acute or severe hyponatremia. That is 8 to 10 milli equivalent per liter in the first 24 hours and less than 18 milli equivalent in the first 48 hours. Syndrome of inappropriate ADH should be treated. It is response to isotonic saline is different in the syndrome of inappropriate ADH. In hypovolemic volemia, both the sodium and water are retained. Sodium handling is intact and syndrome of inappropriate ADH. Administered sodium might be excreted in the urine while some of the water may be retained, possibly worsening the hyponatremia. Briefly, the treatment is only the water restriction, 0.5 to 1 liter per day. Second is salt tablets and democlocycline. It inhibits the effect of EDH and onset of action may require up to 1 week. Another status of the patient, there is volume deflation. Isotonic saline used for volume deflation rises plasma sodium by 1 to 2 milliequivalent per liter for every liter of fluid infused since saline has higher sodium concentration than hyponatremic plasma. Volume repletion removes stimulation of EDH. Why don't we correct the hyponatremia rapidly? At result, in a severe neurological syndrome due to local areas of demyelination called central pontine myelinosis or osmotic demyelination syndrome. The symptoms of central pontine myelinosis are dysarthria, dysphagia, spastic quadriplegia, pseudobulbar palsy, and respiratory arrest. Occur in pons mostly, but also in the basal ganglia, internal capsule, and cerebral cortex. Yani, these myelination mostly occur in pons, but also occur in basal ganglia, internal capsule, and cerebral cortex. Now, another topic is hypernatremia. First, we will discuss hyponatremia. Now, the second is hypernatremia. I already mentioned that normal level of sodium between 135 to 145 milliequivalent per liter. By definition, hypernatremia, when is defined as an increase in the plasma sodium concentration more than 145 milliequivalent per liter. Hypernatremia, less common than hyponatremia, associated with mortality rate as high as 40 to 60%. The causes of hypernatremia are divided in two groups, net water loss and hypotonic gain. Further, we divided pure water loss and hypotonic fluid loss. Now, first, we will discuss the pure water losses. The causes of pure water losses of hypernatremia are insensible losses from the skin, from respirations, other causes of neurogenic diabetes insipidus, congenital nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, acquired nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, and other causes are renal disease, hypercalcemia, hypokalemia, and some drugs also cause pure water loss that cause hypernatremia like lithium, amphotericin B, vasopressin V5 receptor antagonist. These drugs cause hypernatremia. The second cause of net water loss are hypotonic fluid loss. First, pure water losses causes are the causes of hypotonic fluid loss are divided into three groups: renal causes, gastrointestinal causes, cutaneous causes. Renal causes of hypotonic fluid losses are loop diuretics, osmotic diuresis, postoperative diuresis, and polyuric phase of acute tuber necrosis. GI causes of hypotonic fluid loss are vomiting, gastric drainage, diarrhea, and use of some osmotic agents like lactulose. Other causes of hypotonic fluid loss are burns and excessive sweating. The hypertonic sodium gain causes hypernatremia or hypertonic sodium bicarbonate infusions, ingestion of sodium chloride, ingestion of seawater, hypertonic sodium chloride infusion, primary hyperaldosteronism, and Cushing syndromes. We divided the causes of hypernatremia in three groups, two groups. One is net water losses, it is further divided in pure water losses and hypotonic fluid loss. The second cause is hypertonic sodium gain. The causes of hypertonic gain are hypertonic sodium bicarbonate infusions, ingestion of sodium chloride, ingestion of seawater, hypertonic sodium chloride infusion, primary hyperaldosteronism, and Cushing syndromes. The clinical features of hypernatremia are mostly identical with hyponatremia. Most manifestations are neurological in nature, that is fatigue, headache, nausea, vomiting, confusion, seizure, and coma. But hypernatremia mostly associated with hypokalemia. Presence and severity of symptoms are related to severity of derangement, speed at which the derangement develop, and depend on two factors. Diagnosis of hypernatremia depend on history and physical examination. History should focus on the presence of absence of thirst, polyuria, and an extra renal source for water loss such as diarrhea. The physical examination should include a detailed neurologic examination and assessment of the extracellular fluid volume. Patient may be hypovolemic with reduced GVP and orthostasis. Accurate documentation of daily fluid intake and daily urine output. The lab investigation for hypernatremia, measurement of sodium and urine osmolarity in addition to urine electrolytes. The appropriate response to hypernatremia and a serum osmolarity more than 295 milliosmol per kg as an increase in circulating EDH and the excretion of low volumes, that is less than 500 ml per day of maximally concentrated urine, that is urine with osmolarity more than 800 milliosmol per kg. Management of hypernatremia. Addressing the underlying cause, correct the prevailing hypertonicity. A rate of collection hypernatremia that develop over a period of hours, accidentally loading. A rapid correction improve prognosis without cerebral edema, reducing sodium by 1 millimole per liter per hour appropriate. Hypernatremia prolonged or unknown durations, a slow pace of correction, prudent, maximum rate of 0.5 millimole per liter per hour to prevent cerebral edema. A target fall in sodium of 10 millimole per liter per 24 hour. The key point in this slide is the correction of sodium and 24 hour as 10 millimole per liter per 24 hours. Goal of treatment of hypernatremia, reduce serum sodium concentration to 145 millimole per liter. Make allowance for ongoing, obligatory, or incidental losses of hypertonic fluid that will aggravate the hypernatremia. In patient with seizure, if the patient with hyponatremia having seizures, adequate anticonvulsant types like phenobarbital, diazepam, and adequate ventilation needed these patients. Yani, if the patient have seizures, fits should be treated with diazepam and phenobarbital. Administration of fluid and hypernatremia or water ideally should be administered by mouth or by nasogastric tube is the most direct way to provide free water, that is water without electrolytes. Alternative patient can receive free water and dextrose containing IV solutions such as 5% dextrose. Two conditions, that is hypernatremia with extracellular fluid volume contraction, should be treated with isotonic saline as given initially till extracellular fluid volume is restored. Subsequently, water deficit can be replaced with water by mouth or IV, 5% dextrose or half normal saline. 0.5% sodium chloride means half normal saline. The second condition, that is hypernatremia with increased extracellular fluid volume. Since hypernatremia is secondary to solute administration, it can be rapidly corrected. Patient are volume overloaded. Loop diuretic is given along with water to remove excess sodium. If the patient is hypernatremia with extracellular fluid volume restriction, the patient should be treated with half normal saline. But in second condition, if the patient has hypernatremia with increased extracellular fluid volume, the patient should be treated with loop diuretics to remove the excessive sodium. Now, the third electrolytes imbalance is potassium. Potassium is the major intracellular caution essential for the maintenance of acid-base balance and electrodynamic cellular function. Potassium is essential for transmission of nerve impulse, for contraction of skeletal muscles, cardiac, smooth muscles, gastric secretion, renal function, and tissue synthesis and carbohydrate metabolism. Potassium's essential for nerve impulse, contraction of skeletal, cardiac, smooth muscle, gastric secretion, and renal function. Hypokalemia. Hypokalemia is defined as persistently low level of serum potassium lower than 3.5 milliequivalent per liter. I repeat once again, hypokalemia is defined as persistently low level of serum potassium less than 3.5 milliequivalent per liter. Normal serum potassium level are 3.5 to 5 milliequivalent per liter. 98% of body potassium is intracellular, where only 2% of it is extracellular. The causes of hypokalemia we divided in four groups. One is total body potassium, actual total body potassium loss. Second is inadequate potassium intake. Third is movement of potassium from the extracellular fluid to the intracellular fluid. It is also called redistributions. And fourth cause of dilution of serum potassium. The causes of body potassium loss are excessive use of medications such as diuretics or corticosteroid, increased secretion of aldosterone such as Cushing syndrome, vomiting, diarrhea, wound drainage, prolonged nasogastric functioning, and excessive diaphoresis, renal disease impairing reabsorption of potassium. These are the causes, and these conditions potassium loss occur from the body. Second is inadequate potassium intake by nothing by mouth or prolonged starvations. And redistributions, movement of potassium from the extracellular fluid to the intracellular fluid occur due to alkalosis, hyperinsulinism, and some hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. Dilution of serum potassium occur due to water intoxication or IV therapy with potassium for solutions. What is redistribution of potassium? And this due to intracellular shift of potassium. Exogenous insulin, glucose infusion increase potassium entry into skeletal and hepatic cells by promoting sodium potassium ATP's activities. This effect is more prominent when administered in setting of decay or non-ketotic hyperglycemia. Remember that carbohydrate loaded in malnourished patients leading to endogenous insulin release can cause the same effects of this picture show the causes of redistribution of hypokalemia, that is insulin, beta-2 agonist, thyroid hormone, and refeeding syndrome. And this increase intracellular uptake through the sodium potassium ATPase occur. Clinical feature of hypokalemia are maybe it is asymptomatic, maybe patient present with fatigue, myalgia, maybe present with lower limb weakness with depressed deep tendon reflex, maybe patient present with paralytic ileus constipations, some patient present with respiratory distress due to respiratory muscle weakness, some patient present with arrhythmia and heart failure, especially patient on digitalis, digoxin treatment. But hypokalemia never present phenological presentations. This is the most important slide. ECG changes are hypokalemia. We divided in two groups, early changes. In early changes, there is T-wave inversion or flattening. In hypokalemia, T-wave inversion or flattening, U-wave formation, ST segment depression, and prolonged QT interval occur. But severe potassium depletion, या severe hypokalemia, there is prolonged PR interval, low voltage ECG, wide coverage complexes with ventricular arrhythmia. I repeat once again, the most important ECG finding and hypokalemia as T wave inversion are flattening, U wave formation, ST segment depression, and prolonged QT interval. Diagnostic approach to hypokalemia, we divide in three groups. One is redistribution, one is pseudo-hypokalemia, and one is true hypokalemia. And redistribution, find out the cause for redistribution. For example, insulin infusion, stop insulin infusion. If the patient has beta 2 agonist, stop beta 2 agonist. Now the patient should be diagnosed and treated accordingly. Pseudohypokalemia mostly occur when you collected sample from that side, drip arm sample. No treatment required, confirm with repeat lab. Only repeat the lab. If the patient have true yani hypokalemia, you keep the following disease or the following condition in your mind. True hypokalemia, this is a slide, measure urinary potassium level. If urinary potassium excretion less than 20 milliequivalent per liter per day, and the causes are mostly extra renal losses. When urinary potassium excretion more than 30 milliequivalent per liter per day, now it represent renal losses. These are the causes like diarrhea, fistula, celiac disease, vomiting, diuretics. According to the condition, you will investigate the patients. Therapeutic goals for treating hypokalemia: prevent life-threatening complications like arrhythmia and respiratory failure, correction of underlying etiology, correct potassium deficit, minimize ongoing losses, prevention of hypokalemia. Normal daily intake of potassium, that is 60 milliequivalent per liter. In some condition, we give prophylactic potassium in patient taking digoxin, long-term use of diuretics, and larger doses of steroids. Prophylactically, we also given potassium in the following conditions. Prevention of hypokalemia required and especially in digitalis therapy, hepatic failure patient, previous MI or ischemic heart disease and diabetes mellitus. Post-operative on total fluid nutrition or IV fluid give 40 to 50 milliequivalent per day of potassiums. Treatment guidelines of potassium, that is potassium level 3 to 3.5 milliequivalent. Treat in special high risk groups, especially risk of arrhythmia, fatigue prayer, congestive heart failure, digital therapy. These are conditions especially need potassium supplementations. When the potassium level below 3 milliequivalent per liter, a definite treatment required through IV routes. Otherwise, you should treat the patient with oral salts. For treating of hypokalemia, some precautions are required. Never give potassium in oliguric or anuric patients. Patient on potassium sparing diuretic is seen in patient with renal failure. Patient on digitalis therapy, IV potassium infusion rate should be less than 20 milliequivalent per liter. If read more than 20 milligram per hour, every patient need to have continuous ECG monitoring and frequent serum potassium level. Brief summary of this slide, that is, never give patient an oliguric, anuric patient, and potassium cautiously use in these conditions. IV route carries high risk of hyperkalemia. reserved only for severe symptomatic hypokalemia or for the patient who can't take oral feeds. Always monitor IV therapy with continuous ECG monitoring and frequent potassium measurement. Once again, potassium avoid IV till urine output is established. जब तक यूरिन आउटपुट एस्टेब्लिश नहीं होता आप पोटाशियम नहीं दे सकते क्योंकि हाइपरकलीमिया इज डेंजर देन हाइपोकलीमिया. डोंट गिव यानी 10 to 20 मिलीकुइन पर लीटर पर आवर. एक जो फ्लो रेट है पोटाशियम की 10 to 20 मिलीकुइन पर लीटर पर आवर से ज़्यादा नहीं देना और मोर देन 40 मिलीकुइन पर लीटर से ज़्यादा नहीं देना और 240 मिलीकुइन पर डे से ज़्यादा नहीं देना. जितनी पेशेंट की रिक्वायरमेंट्स है हाइपोकलीमिया की ये 3 पैरामीटर्स आपने जहन में रखना है. 10 to 20 मिलीकुइन पर लीटर पर आवर से ज़्यादा नहीं देना, मोर देन 40 millicurie per liter and more than 240 millicurie per day. Never give direct injection potassium chloride IV can cause sudden cardiac arrest. Add potassium chloride to isolates. Rapid IV correction can cause dangerous hyperkalemia. Hypo is better than hyper. Avoiding treating metabolic acidosis associated with hypokalemia with IV sodium bicarbonate as it may aggravate hypokalemia. And severe hypokalemia, add potassium chloride and isotonic saline, not and 5% distilled saline. Oral potassium salts oral salts are safer as having minimal risk of hyperkalemia. Mild to moderate hypokalemia, that is 5 milliequivalent. Every dose is required 20 milliequivalent 3 to 4 times a day along with treatment of underlying disorder. Potassium chloride solution contain 20 milliequivalent per 15 ml solutions. Potassium KCl tablet contain 8 milliequivalent per tablet potassium. May cause frequent KCl tablet may cause frequent GIT irritation, so advised to take solution with proper dilution with water and after food. Esophageal or small bowel erosion or structure are uncommon side effects. Now briefly we discuss hyperkalemia, defined as a plasma potassium level of more than 5.5 milliequivalent per liter. Severe hyperkalemia when serum potassium level are more than 6 milliequivalent per liter. The main cause of hyperkalemia is decrease in renal excretion is the most common, most frequent cause of hyperkalemia. By definitions, hyperkalemia more than 5.5 milliequivalent per liter of potassium level. Severe hyperkalemia more than 6 milliequivalent per liter. The normal serum level of potassium is 3.5 to 5 millimole per liter. Daily requirement is 1 to 1.5 millimole per kg. Dietary sources are dry fruits, meats, poultry, fish, banana, potatoes, some vegetables. These are the main sources of potassiums. Now the causes of hyperkalemia divided in 4 groups: potassium release from cells, excessive intake, decreased renal loss, and atherogenic. The causes of hyperkalemia we divided in 4 groups. One is potassium release from the cells. Second is excessive intake of potassium, decreased renal loss, and atherogenic cause of potassium. Potassium release from cell causes are intravascular hemolysis, tumor lysis syndrome, rhabdomyolysis, metabolic acidosis, hyperglycemia, severe digitalic toxicity, hyperkalemic periodic paralysis, beta blocker, and some drugs that is succinylcholine, especially in case of massive trauma, burns, or neuromuscular disease. These conditions cause potassium release from the cells that cause hyperkalemia in patient. Excessive intake, it is less common cause of hyperkalemia, mostly occur due to oral or IV fluid intake or by some blood transfusions. The cause of excessive intake, mostly IV fluid, some salt intake or blood transfusions. Now the most common cause of hyperkalemia is the decreased excretion is the most common cause of hyperkalemia. The cause of decreased renal potassium excretion include renal failure, diabetes mellitus, sickle disease. Medication that decrease potassium excretion like potassium sparing diuretics, NSAIDs, angiotensin converter, enzyme inhibitors. I summarize briefly in this slide the causes of hyperkalemia. This is show the excessive intake causes mostly oral IV potassium supplementation, salt substitutes, and blood transfusion. These three causes are excessive intake of potassium cause hyperkalemia. The causes of decreased renal excretion of potassium are diabetes mellitus, renal failure, congestive heart failure, SLE, sickle cell anemia, NSAID, EC inhibitor, potassium sparing diuretics, multiple myeloma. The causes of hyperkalemia that occur shed from intracellular to extracellular fluid are hyperosmolarity, rhabdomyolysis, tumor lysis syndrome, succinylcholine, insulin deficiency, and acute acidosis. This is the summary, the etiology of hyperkalemia. Symptom of hyperkalemia mostly present with weakness and fatigue. Most common symptom of hyperkalemia: muscle paralysis, shortness of breath, and palpitations. On physical examination, patient vital signs generally are normal, except bradycardia due to heart block. Common features: weakness and fatigue, muscle paralysis, shortness of breath, and palpitation. Physical examination mostly normal, except bradycardia due to heart block, or tachypnea due to respiratory muscle weakness. To investigate hyperkalemia, assess renal function to rule out the acute renal failure या excretion of decreased excretion of potassium due to kidney. Check serum blood urea and creatinine level to determine whether renal insufficiency is present. Check 24 urine for creatinine clearance. Estimate the glomerular filtration rate. Another important slide, ECG finding and hyperkalemia. Changes occur mostly when serum potassium more than 6 millimole per liter. Initial changes, that is T wave, peak are tented. Next changes ST depression or elevation, loss of P wave and QRS widening, and finally biphasic wave, यानी sine wave, QRX and T fusion. This slide show when the patient has mild hyperkalemia, that is between the 5.5 to 6.5 milliequivalent per liter. This show that peak T wave. This is peak T wave. It is the typical pattern of hyperkalemia. Peak T wave and prolonged PR segment. And moderate hyperkalemia when the potassium level between 6.5 to 8 milliequivalent per liter. Now there is loss of P wave. There is no P wave in this area. There is no P wave. Loss of P wave and prolongation of QRS complex. QRS complex ये prolong हो जाता है. Second उसमें जो है prolongation of QRS complex, ST segment elevation. Yeah, this is ST segment elevation, ectopic beats and scopic arrhythmia. But severe hyperkalemia when potassium level more than 8 millicurie per liter, progressive widening of QRS complex, sine wave. This is called sine wave. This is called sine wave. Other finding are ventricular fibrillation, asystole, excess deviation, bundle branch plaques, and vesicular plaques. But you remember peak T wave, ST segment elevations, third, loss of P wave and sine wave. These four findings remember in mind for hyperkalemia. Meyer complete metabolic profile. Low bicarbonate may suggest hyperkalemia due to metabolic acidosis. Hyperglycemia suggests diabetes mellitus. Treatment of hyperkalemia, the first step to determine the life-threatening toxicity by perform ECG to look for cardiotoxicity. At present, administer IV calcium gluconate, temolurate cardiac toxicity. यानी first step by ECG monitoring, give calcium gluconate. Initial dose is 10 ml over 2 to 5 minutes. Second dose after 5 minutes if no response. Episodes occur in minutes and last for 30 to 60 minutes. Second step is to identify and remove sources of potassium. That is change the diet to low potassium diet. बस 2 मिनट हाँ. Last year potassium shed permanent avascular glucose and insulin infusion. Regular 10 units IV 50 ml into 50% distillate. Measure glucose and potassium every 2 hours. Correct metabolic acidosis with sodium bicarbonate and Ventolin nebulization. Fourth step is to increase potassium excretion from the body. And normal kidney function may be administered by the parenteral saline accompanied by a loop diuretic such as prosamides. If the patient have persistent hyperkalemia, then last dialysis for hyperkalemia. Any questions? असल में ये बहुत लंबा टॉपिक था ना. अब इसमें क्वेश्चंस कहाँ पे है? 2 मिनट उसको वेट कर लेते हैं, कोई क्वेश्चंस आए. मैंने क्या देख लेते हैं, कोई क्वेश्चन अगर कर रहा है 2 मिनट वेट कर लेते हैं. अभी तो है, कोई नहीं है. Any question please?